Hey everybody, and welcome into Ccsn Gameday Live with Raegan and Knobbe. I'm Parris, and we are live here inside in Power Field at Mile High, getting ready for the CHSAA Class 5A State Championship between number 1 Valor Christian and number 2 Cherry Creek. Raegan, I first want to wish you a happy championship Saturday. It is going to be a great day.
And to you too, Ben. It's great to be out here in this amazing stadium, seeing these fans start to fill up for the first time since last year.
With that, Raegan, we're going to hop right into our game preview, and we're going to begin with the head-to-head matchup between the top two teams in the state who both have very high-powered offenses.
So on the Creek side, we have more of a balance of passing and rushing with just over 2,000 yards for both. And what we've seen from Valor is that they center their offense around their 5-star recruit, senior running back, Gavin Saucer. Now, Valor has just over 2,000 passing yards and just over 3,000 rushing yards.
We're now going to take a look at how each of these teams got to this championship game, their road to Mile High per se, beginning with the top-seeded Valor Christian Eagles. Now, following their first-round bye, they had Fort Collins, Columbine, and Grandview in the playoffs.
Valor has always been known, as a kind of football powerhouse in Colorado, and they really put a beating on Fort Collins in Week 11. They had an unusually close game against Columbine in the playoffs, and they beat them 17-7. And, 10 points might not seem like a close game, but when you're Valor and you usually beat teams by 2 to 6 scores, that's something to be more concerned about.
For Cherry Creek, after their first-round bye, they had Mountain Vista, Regis Jesuit, and, of course, Legend last week in the semifinal.
Cherry Creek shut out Mountain Vista, and then they took care of Regis. And when Creek got to the Legend game, we were all kind of expecting it to be a little bit more competitive than how it turned out. Creek ended up winning that game 48-14, which was definitely a greater margin than expected.
It's time to meet the players battling for today's state championship, and we're going to begin with the quarterbacks in senior Colton Allen for Valor and junior Christian Hammond for Cherry Creek.
Allen and Hammond have pretty similar stats. Allen has thrown for 1,990 yards, 20 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. And then Hammond has thrown for 1,924 yards with 16 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And, the other Hammond brother, Julian Hammond, he won a championship out here 2 years ago. And that's definitely given Christian Hammond something to look up to for sure.
We're going to take a look at the run games now. It's the best running back in the state, Gavin Saucer, and Cherry Creek's Carlson Tan.
Gavin leads the state in rushing yards by over 200 yards, which averages out to around 148 yards per game. He has 28 touchdowns, 259 carries, which is the most in the state. Tan has just under 800 yards on the season and 9 touchdowns, and he averages around 9.2 yards per carry, which is almost a first down every single time he has the ball in his hands.
And finally, we look at the final offensive skill position. It's Grant Simmons and Kyle Day at wide receiver.
For Valor, we have Simmons, who has 49 receptions for 667 yards and 7 touchdowns. Creek's Coyote has 29 receptions for 567 yards, also 7 touchdowns, and 3 of Kai's touchdowns came from last week's game against Legend, where he scored Creek's first receiving touchdown of the playoffs, and then he caught a 75-yard pass from Hammond for a touchdown, and he also ran back a really impressive kickoff return for 100 yards.
Now, Raegan, I want to circle back to Gavin Saucer for a moment because this guy is the real deal. He's currently committed to Oklahoma, but he also received offers to Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Stanford. The list just goes on and on for this guy.
I mean, you said it, Ben. Gavin really is the real deal when it comes to running backs in the country. He is ranked 5th in the country according to his 24/7 Sports Composite ranking. And you can talk about Valor being less balanced when it comes to the passing versus run game. But when you have a running back that effective, why wouldn't you run the ball? Now, Gavin is committed to play for Oklahoma. With the departure of former head coach Lincoln Riley, who is now at USC, Gavin's future is a little uncertain. He was actually asked about that during a press conference here at Mile High on Tuesday, which we're going to take a look at right now.
Yeah, I'm not talking about that right now. I'm just trying to focus on this championship game. You know, we got a great team that we're going to be playing. It's going to be a hard game, so really focusing on that right now.
All right, look, Ben, one thing is for certain. Gavin might not know where he's going to be next season, but he knows where he is today. He's highly focused, dialed in, and extremely motivated to win this game for Valor.
Gavin will be very dialed in indeed. Raegan, especially after just a year ago, the Cherry Creek defense absolutely shut him down in Pueblo. And this afternoon, they're going to try to do it again, and they've had a phenomenal season stopping offenses both in the air and on the ground.
The defense has definitely been very successful this year. They've kept opponents to just over 9 points per game. And something that the defense has done well consistently is creating turnovers. They have 13 interceptions, which is 1 per game, for a total of 308 yards. The defense also has 17 fumble recoveries for 89 yards. And when it comes to stopping the run game with Gavin out here today, it's the same story this year as it was last year. Cherry Creek defense needs to be completely locked in today, and they need to execute and make plays to win this game.
A year ago, Cherry Creek and Valor met in the state championship down at CSU Pueblo, and today they do it again for the second year in a row, the fourth time ever. Cherry Creek leads the championship history between these two teams with their wins in 2014 and, of course, last year in 2020. But Valor got the win in 2018 here at Mile High. The Bruins are going for their 12th all-time state championship, their third in a row, while the Eagles are looking for their 9th state championship and their 7th in Class 5A.
And another huge stat for this game is that Cherry Creek has the potential to three-peat for the second time in school history. Creek also three-peated from 1994 to 1996, and Coach Logan also has a three-peat under his belt from his time when he was head coach at Mullen. And this is incredibly unique. It's not something you see really ever. Coach Logan is looking for his 10th state title as a coach, his 4th at Creek, which is certainly an incredible legacy to leave behind.
An incredible legacy indeed, and ever since Coach Logan took over, and now what is his 10th season, he's made the culture of Cherry Creek football a very different place, and now as they're playing in their 4th state championship in a row, I mean, Cherry Creek is undoubtedly a football powerhouse. Raegan, any final thoughts before we get ready for the game?
I was talking to a couple players the other day, and what they said was they just really, really want this bad for Coach Logan, and they're going to come out here today, they're going to leave it all in the field, and we'll see what happens comes game time.
It's going to be a great game. Cherry Creek is coming off undoubtedly their best game of the season in the semifinal last week against Legends, so you never know what can happen at Mile High in the state championship. A 2:30 kickoff here at Mile High. Make sure you follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms at Cherry Creek SN, and we got you covered with team arrivals in just a little bit, and then we got game coverage coming all afternoon long. So for Raegan Knobbe, I'm Parris here at Mile High Stadium. Let's go Bruins!
Let's go Bruins!